We want to turn now to Japan, where President Obama earlier called for a world without nuclear weapons. He relayed that message while visiting the site of the world's first atomic bombing in Hiroshima, Japan. The president is in the country for the G7 summit. He expressed sadness and regret, but very pointedly did not apologize for the blast that killed some 140,000 people and helped to bring World War II to an end in 1945.
Science allows us to communicate across the seas and fly above the clouds, to cure disease and understand the cosmos. But those same discoveries can be turned into ever more efficient killing machines. The wars of the modern age teach us this truth. Hiroshima teaches this truth. Technological progress without an equivalent progress in human institutions can doom us. The scientific revolution that led to the splitting of an atom requires a moral revolution as well.
To discuss this, Daniel Drezner now joins us. He's a Tufts University international politics professor, a Washington Post contributing editor, and a Brookings Institute senior fellow. Joins us now from West Newton, Massachusetts. And Daniel, first, what'd you make today overall of the remarks of the president?
To be honest, I thought it was about the best possible speech he could have given. I mean, in some ways, Obama is walking a tightrope here by even going to Hiroshima because it raises questions about whether or not he would apologize on behalf of the United States for dropping the atomic bomb, which probably would have led to domestic political problems at home and wouldn't necessarily have assuaged many Japanese. He chose not to do that. Instead, he gave a speech that I thought was pretty resonant in terms of trying to reconcile U.S. and the United States and Japan without actually apologizing. And I think in some ways the most touching moment was after the speech when he embraced one of the survivors of the Hiroshima bombing.
Interestingly, and you'll forgive me parsing my high school history experience, but there was a school of thought that believed that Japan was on its last legs collectively and that the U.S. made the decision to drop those two bombs in an effort to keep the Soviet Union from being more involved in the theater of war and perhaps seeking concessions down the line. Interestingly, prior to this visit to Japan, the president visited Vietnam, where he lifted a decades-old arms ban that felt like saber rattling as well, was seen by many as, again, a saber rattle directed at China. What have you made of the politics of this Asian tour of the president's?
Well, what you would describe as U.S. saber rattling, you could also describe as a response to Chinese saber rattling, particularly in the South China Sea. So, you know, the Pacific Rim tour by Obama is part of a long-term strategy of rebalancing that the administration has embraced for 2 terms now. And part of this is clearly trying to cement alliances with Japan, as well as partnerships with states like Vietnam that are legitimately concerned about Chinese encroachment in the South China Sea. So it strikes me as largely consistent with what Obama's grand strategy has been since he's been in office.
I also want to ask you about some remarks the president made yesterday with regard to how other countries and their leaders view this election cycle here in the United States. We actually heard the president yesterday say that the presumptive GOP nominee, Donald Trump, rattles foreign leaders. We did hear Trump respond saying, well, that's a good thing. But how has this race, specifically with regard to Donald Trump, impacted the way other nations see the politics here in the United States?
I think it's caused other countries to view the U.S. election as a geopolitical risk. There's no other way to put it. The fact that even if Trump doesn't win in November, the fact that he's secured a major party nomination when just about every political expert, myself included, I would say, thought that he had no chance of doing this suggests the degree to which there's volatility in terms of the way American voters think about who they want to lead the free world. So the fact that there's even a possibility that someone like Donald Trump, who has said a lot of things that would legitimately make Pacific Rim allies and partners nervous, the fact that that could actually happen means they now need to think about what does this mean even if he loses? Does this mean that there's a shift in American attitudes about engagement with the rest of the world?
Very quickly then, it was a multinational tightrope to walk for the president as he makes his way then back to the United States at this hour. His trip, success?
I would think you would have to call it a success. He obviously cemented ties with Vietnam. I think he finessed what could have been a very tricky speech in Hiroshima, and demonstrated that he's still managing to engage other countries on the world stage.
Daniel Drezner, we really appreciate the time today.
Thank you.